discussion going on here this evening, just kind of around the topic of FileMaker WebDirect. I think it was, we got FileMaker WebDirect in version 13. And since then, there have been, a number of enhancements. I mean, it was already an improvement over, the instant web publishing that we had all used previously. But they've continued to make some improvements, and things change in how you develop. And so I thought we could just kind of talk about that here a little bit. The topics that I came up with are the things that I kind of put in the category of improvements or new features or enhancements, however you want to categorize them, for WebDirect, since its initial release was having being able to handle more connections on a single server. Instead of having, you could go up to 100 users on a single box if you wanted to do that. Being able to print from WebDirect, being able to use custom dialog boxes was a big thing. And then quickly on the heels of that was the card window support in, I think, the latest with FileMaker 19, and then being able to use perform script on server from WebDirect. So those are the 5 that I thought of that I know have changed the way I've done some stuff. I don't know if anybody has anything else that they want to chime in on, go right ahead. But we don't have to take them in that order, but those were just some ideas that I wanted to throw out to the room.
Does it still have a problem with layered objects? I mean, I try not to use them, and I'm cleaning up an old solution and saying, do I have to still clean up? Wishing I could use layered objects till I can get to it.
Yeah, that is definitely one thing that you have to be careful of still. I mean, I guess that's where, this is more from a developer side of things, but just being able to see the stack order or whatever they call the pane. I use it all the time, but being able to see what the order of things are, so you don't have a button behind a large text box that the user can't click into, has been helpful, at least in that regard, even though you do have to worry about your layered objects and things like that.
I have a good thing to say about WebDirect. That was, as some of you know, our company just acquired another location in Virginia, and that just happened this week. But I spent the month of October in FileMaker the whole year, but the whole month. It feels like the whole year, but what was nice is with WebDirect, I was able, over the last few months, I created something to look like our business software. So it was good for training purposes to prepare those coming on board so they would know what it would look like without giving them access to our business software, because we didn't want them to see our numbers just yet, because the deal wasn't final yet. So so it's proprietary information, but I was able to kind of, give them, WebDirect was very helpful, that I could give them screenshot. I basically took screenshots of our system. We use Keybase, and I took screenshots, and then I built a few layouts, and then fired up WebDirect on our, and then they were able to log in and just do some training on it. So that's the way I've used WebDirect this year.
That's pretty cool. I don't think I've ever, we've used it for, several different clients, but I don't think we've ever used that as a training tool in that regard. That's a pretty good idea. So I guess I should have asked when we got started is how many people have actually used and built things with WebDirect? Whether they're just little pieces or complete systems, or.
I don't really use it.
Okay.
A couple years back, I built a really big system. I actually demoed it at one point at FMburgh. It was for a law firm that they do class action lawsuits, and it was pretty cool. I learned a lot, and we don't have that client anymore, unfortunately, because the champion there was let go, and so FileMaker was not kept by their company. So that system unfortunately died because it was really cool. It would have been neat, but that was back before card windows and being able to print and things like that. So I'd be interested to see how some of those things can improve things. But one thing I do remember about the WebDirect solution was, for whatever reason, architecturally, I guess, when certain things are on the web versus FileMaker, they process a lot faster. There were things, if I logged into the FileMaker client, and I think we were using 17 or 18, and I'd click a button to run a script or go somewhere that there was a complicated calculation. It could take minutes for it to process in FileMaker, but if I did it on the website, it was instantaneous. So I don't know if anybody's noticed the performance difference, but WebDirect is actually faster for certain things.
Yeah, I think that's faster because isn't that because the server is doing all the work, and it's almost like you're doing the perform script on server rather than the client having to pull down like any necessary information, and you're doing all the processing locally with the client, as opposed to WebDirect, which is, it doesn't have to go anywhere. It's just telling the server, hey, give me back the response.
Yeah, that's what I've
clearly
heard too.
half the battle right there, I bet, is the fact that it processes on the server. The other may be, since you were using 17 or 18, you may have fallen victim to the issue about the excessive cache and temp files being stored on the client machine, which I think they finally got cleaned up in the last VREV of 18. I'm not 100% sure when that was done, but that clearly could have been an issue as well.
Yeah, I'd like to use WebDirect more, but unfortunately, FileMaker's licensing makes it not attractive for clients who want to use it. Their cost of concurrent users is pretty high. There are so many web-based applications out there nowadays that are like pennies even for transactions or for users, and FileMaker's cost is significantly higher. So most of the clients that I try to pitch a WebDirect solution for, when they see the licensing costs, they don't want to go that way.
Well, we used it or experimented with it a little bit way back when it was first coming out. And so we didn't have the concurrent licensing problem and everything. We had a whole bunch of extra seats around, and in the end, it was just easier to install FileMaker on people's machines than wrestle with the things that didn't work the way you wanted them to in WebDirect. So kind of fell by the wayside and never picked it back up.
Yeah, the WebDirect work that we've done it's been several years now. So same, just like you, Beth, we haven't had the opportunity to work with the current project, with the current versions, with the new bells and whistles. But when we were working on it, I thought it was a nice way to give access to just anybody, on the fly, and it did work very nice. I was surprised at how well things would work in it, and it was this beautiful thing that you could create this layout and then save the layout, and there it is, and everything works almost exactly the same. So that was they did a really nice job with WebDirect when they first came out with it. So has anyone here worked with the new form builder stuff for Cloud 2? I know that's not like technically WebDirect, but isn't it kind of a flavor of WebDirect?
What form builder?
Isn't the, or is this something that's not out yet? Am I remembering just something that was presented where you can build your layouts in a web viewer, or not a web viewer, in a web browser? And you know, it's all
When you do the quick start, when you first come to FileMaker and open it, you can create with a web viewer, but once it's saved, you can go back and edit it like normally. You can't go back and edit it on the web, but that's like the quick start. Is that what you're talking about?
I'm not 100% sure what I'm talking about. Sorry.
Yeah.
I just had this.
And then at the you know, the engage stuff, they did show future stuff that they would like to work on where it's web based for creating the layouts and stuff.
That's a good segue,
What they have now
BJ,
is-
to the core point that WebDirect came along, as I think Todd said, in version 13 to replace IWP, which was described by a rather prominent member of the FileMaker staff as a failed deployment strategy. And what we will see now, I think, with the quote new stuff, end quote, is that it will likely take the place of WebDirect. How soon and to what degree, they haven't said, that I've heard at least. But you know, the building, the authoring, the deployment, you know, WebDirect was good and is good for what it was designed to do, but it's not the direction I don't think that the company tends to go in. You might go to the YouTube site and review both the Engage keynote with Brad Freitag and Peter Nelson, and then the subsequent Q&A executive follow-up, which I think came about 2-3 weeks after that, and they did show some of that.
Yeah, because it seems like if I don't know if anyone remembers the.
Sorry about that. I had a call from confirming an appointment on Friday at the hospital for tests.
Nope.
Back. What did I miss?
Not much, just my riffing on new stuff and what they said in the Engage keynote with Brad and Peter and the follow-up Q&A session.
Right.
I was going to ask if anybody remembers the PHP Site Assistant that used to come with Server.
Oh yeah.
Ago.
Yeah.
Like it seems like that, you know, they want to get more in a direction like that, where now with the FileMaker Data API, there will be more like easier ways to build snippets that are pre-coded to call out the fields. You know, those styles of interfaces where you could just kind of like drag your fields from the you know, the object panel on the left, and it's going to be doing the same exact thing. It's just writing it into HTML with the you know, the JavaScript or the PHP already coded in. So it just seems like they're, you know, they tried that, they did that before, and then that disappeared mysteriously, and you know, they're just kind of in trying to go back that way because you can't kill the web.
Yeah. The first foray into web for a lot of people was that Claris homepage, because it used Dreamweaver to do the drag and drop design, and I think that's what a lot of people want, is they don't want to have to do the HTML coding and the CSS coding. So I think you're right. And then the PHP assistant was some of that, but you didn't. I don't think you had the interface.
No, and you could basically, I think you would pick the layout, and then you would pick whether you wanted the list or if you wanted it to be search. So it was all very canned, and you just kind of picked
Right.
a couple things, and then it would build the page for you, and it was all closed, but you had a little bit of customization, so it wasn't great, but
Yeah,
it was,
that's right. Yeah. Yeah, I remember that now.
Oh, and not that it really changes much, but I had forgot about instant web publishing. I think that's what we started with.
Mhm.
And
Right.
since it worked, since it was such a great tool, people weren't even interested when um, WebDirect came along. They weren't willing to give that a try because IWP just didn't do what we wanted it to. So, but anyway.
Except for that one, if anyone remembers Greg Carchidi, that he came, there was one or a couple of the FMburghs that he came to, and he showed this fantastic IWP solution that he had built, and it was gorgeous, and it was just, he did such a beautiful job. And then I think when WebDirect came out, he was mad because he was going to have to rebuild everything.
Yes, I remember that too, Teresa.
Yeah.
He had worked around so many problems and made them work.
Yeah.
And I remember he took it to the first DevCon he went to. He showed it to some of the FileMaker people there, and they were like, "Oh, we didn't think it worked that well." And but
Yeah.
he had a big. It was used internally at his company, and oh my gosh, yeah, it was quite impressive for. It was massively impressive for IWP.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did something for a client that used IWP, and I made it really lean and mean. So I didn't try to get real complex, and it worked pretty well for what they needed. And of course, you were required to use that theme for IWP. And when it ported to, WebDirect, then I've got 250 layouts now to change to the correct theme that WebDirect can use. So that was a little pain, except for, again, I tried to make it really simplified in design and functionality. So it was just changing that theme that really did not make me happy at all. I have another client that uses server. They're in the cloud now, but we're talking about trying to do some access for some users in WebDirect. And so I'm trying to think about how I can do that. So I started cleaning up some of the layouts to be already more conducive to that style. Again, trying to make it more simple than it was before. And it's a lot of work to try to think about it, to make it optimized sometimes when you can just do it the way it is and wish it would, give you everything.
I guess that's always the key, isn't it? You have to remember, okay, I mean, because between instant web publishing and FileMaker, there was a lot of disparity. So it was pretty obvious
Right.
what worked the same and what worked different. But with WebDirect, they've gotten closer and closer, but there's still those few things that don't work quite the same way. I know I use a lot more commit steps when I was building for WebDirect than what I would typically do in, for somebody who was accessing via FileMaker Pro.
Yeah. Have they solved the problem yet with trying to go to, say, you're in different files and you have to go to another file, and because it's in an iframe and the windowing and the issues with that, they haven't fixed that one yet, have they?
I guess I honestly don't know, because usually when we've built stuff for WebDirect, we've tried to use like a separation model so that the data is in one file, but all of the interface and scripting for what's exposed to WebDirect is in one file by itself. So we've not, we're switching layouts, of course, but we don't have to worry about getting to a different file. Now, is that how about for the rest? Anybody use that approach?
When we do WebDirect, we do, yeah. Same thing.
And I didn't know that printing had been improved on it. I hadn't tried to print anything on WebDirect in a long time.
We have a couple clients that still use WebDirect solutions, and one of them was actually born in instant web publishing, and we just, slowly, updated things as new features have been asked for. We go back and clean up things and kind of optimize them, little by little. And the printing was one of the ones that definitely changed the way we were able to do some stuff, because it was for like a registration website where you're dealing with anonymous users, which is the perfect application for WebDirect. But now instead of them, the user having to wait for some robot to run to send a PDF, hopefully in 15 minutes, as long as the robot didn't go offline, now they can actually, print their receipt or whatever they're trying to get right from the system is made. That's actually something I put together a quick demo on that. If you guys are interested, I can share my screen, and just so that those of you that haven't done it can kind of see what the difference is. But that's up to you. I don't want to bore
Yeah,
anyone.
I'd like to see it.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
me too.
So you guys are seeing my
Yeah.
Safari. All right, I typed my password correctly while everyone was watching. That's usually when you type it wrong about 6 times, is when everybody's watching. So, yeah, so this is just a file that I copied the printing from the client solution into this one. This is just one that we use internally to keep track of stuff that we sometimes have to copy into other files and things, because we haven't completely embraced the add-ons yet, mainly because I'm not sure how to build an add-on, but that's another topic. So, so this is just kind of like our repository of some of our custom functions. And the way the printing works now in WebDirect is that you have the 2 options where you can print or save it as a PDF. So if you do like the print, it just opens up another tab, which of course means you have to, make sure you allow, kind of the same thing you had ran into with instant web publishing, where you had to make sure you could open, pop-ups and things like that, and the settings for the web browser itself. But once you do that, it would open up, your document in the window, and then you can decide, what you're going to do with it for the printing, which was very nice, and it's pretty much what I think most people expect, whenever they're printing from other websites. They usually get some kind of preview like that. And then the other option is if you do the save as PDF, it brings up a custom dialog that says, what the file is, and then you just click it, and then it, downloads it. And then you probably didn't see it open in preview, but then it, if you have it set, then it'll automatically open the document once it's downloaded, and you can preview the PDF that way. And so that is the view from the WebDirect. Now, as far as what's going on under the hood, let me switch over to FileMaker now. Okay, you guys can see the script workspace.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So, and what's really nice is that there weren't a whole lot of tricks that you have to do to make all of that happen. It just kind of does it all by itself in the background. So all I'm doing is I'm getting, here just, what option of printing did they select? Was it they want to actually print it, or they want to save it as a PDF? I was just doing something here for the layout, where it just replaces the data entry flag that we use with a form tag to get to the right layout. This calculates that file name that you saw there when I did the save as PDF. It's still, I think you still need to, so that it's a fully qualified path. I just picked the desktop and threw it in there. So it goes to the layout. You do your print setup like you normally do, and then you can just use the normal FileMaker print steps. And I'm pretty sure even if you don't select it, I think they run with the dialog off anyway. it's been a while since I've looked at that setting. But you just either run the normal print step or the normal save as record step, and then WebDirect translates it to do what you saw it do when we were looking at the Safari window there. So the implementation part of it isn't too bad. So that was my quick demo on what the printing in WebDirect looks like now.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Like I said, I would have liked to have taken credit for all of the cool stuff that you saw, but it's just print or save as PDF. So,
Do we know when that started working well? What version?
was it? I want to say it was versions. It was either, I think it was 16 maybe when they had first introduced it. But I think there were a few growing pains maybe, so it might be like version 17 before it was.
Teresa's here saying the exact same thing that you are. Yeah.
Okay. And because of the projects that we've done with WebDirect, I mean, being able to print was great. And then just having custom dialogues to start with was nice. Because if you ever had to report an error message, you had to figure out, okay, I got to go to this layout with, global field or global variable to give them the error message, remember where I'm at, and then make sure that when they cancel, it brings them back. But now with the custom dialogue, it made, managing all of that a whole lot easier. But what I found myself doing on a few of the things that I've gone back in and tweaked, it's like, I'm going to use a card window instead. Just because you can do so much more with the formatting of the card window, and you don't have to worry about losing your place because you're moving a layout, you're actually going to it in a card window. So that's been pretty cool, I thought.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing too, is trying to use card windows as much as possible, because I can also use that window as a window. It doesn't have to be card, and I can edit it pretty easily. I think easier than even a pop-up, and the fact that it's not really context dependent. You can do finds in there if you allow it, and you can do just about anything on that layout as a layout, but it's just in a little card of the parent. So it's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, the only criticism I have of card windows is you have to have a fail-safe, because if you don't have the little X enabled for your ability to close the window, if it's all buttons and scripted and something goes wrong, there's nothing to do. You can't get out of it. Like, we just had that happen yesterday where somebody was running a report. They do it all the time. It pops up a card window, you put in the start and end date and run the report or cancel. There's no reason it should break, but it did, because the layout context was based on a data source, and the data source was not available. And that's never happened before, that the data source was unavailable, so if you can't trap for everything, until it happens, you don't know what to trap for. So, we were stuck in the card window. There was no way to get out of it because the buttons didn't work, because the layout context wasn't valid, because the data source wasn't there. So, but when I turned the card, I set the card window to be able to hit the X to close it, then I was able to close it. But,
have you tried it without the X, but just use the menu close window?
There's no menu available when the card window is active. I mean, well,
I know that, but when I pull up a card window over a parent, I can still do the close from the command on the Mac, the Command W, and it closes that card. But I haven't tried it without that X available.
If the X isn't available, then that menu is not going to be available either. But I mean, in general, I don't like to leave the X, because if I'm using a card window, I want to control what's happening. So I'm going to have a button to, do whatever I want to do and then close the window.
Yeah, that's
All right.
I agree with you on that, Beth. I mean, I usually leave the X thinking, okay, after I'm done testing it, I've got to go back and uncheck the box so the X disappears. just so I
Right.
have oops, I forgot the program for that. But like you said, there's always those cases where it does something completely unexpected.
Yeah.
I know.
Can you write your own bailout script so that you could allow the user to click a button that's like cancel or quit or something, and it would, I don't know, reverse all the things that were entered in the card window and take you back to the previous state?
Possibly. I mean, in this situation, what I learned was once I deleted the dates, then I had control of my card again, because the error was because it couldn't write to the table because the table wasn't actually there.
Wasn't there?
Right? So, but once I emptied the global fields, then it let me have some control again, so trial and error, but we survived it. And then we yelled at the people in our security team who were just tweaking a few things without, checking to see who might need them.
Yeah, now if you're using a card on iOS, if you don't have the X, you're able to like tap into like the space around the card and it will close. Is that correct, or am I misremembering?
I think you're correct, but I think it also depends on what options you have allowed.
Can you say it again?
Me or Beth?
You. Sorry, Todd.
Yeah. Well, because I thought in like FileMaker Pro, if you open up a card window, even if the user tries to click in like the darkened space and the border where you can still see the parent window behind, it doesn't do anything to the card window. But if you're on an iOS device and you tap into that same area, regardless of how you have it set, it will dismiss the card window for you. But I guess I don't know if it's based on whether you have the setting allowed in your configuration on like the new Windows script step.
I think it always does it on iOS, and it never does it on desktop, which I wish there was an option for it on desktop, like a checkbox.
Actually,
I agree.
The more I'm thinking about it, I think the difference is when the X is available, if you are on iOS and you tap anywhere outside of the card, not on the X, it will still act as if it's the X. But the X has to be there for that to work. Because now that I'm thinking about it, my iPad solutions, I have card windows and you cannot get out of them without hitting a button that I put there.
Okay.
But if the X is there, then tapping outside will act. You don't have to hit the X, you can hit anywhere outside of the card. But on the desktop, you have to actually click the X. You can't click just outside of the card.
Okay. And I'm guessing probably the behavior on WebDirect with a card would be the same way, where
I would hope so. I mean, if we're controlling that because we don't want someone to leave the card without an explicit action that we've planned, I would hope that they can't just tap anywhere to make it go away. Because then you'd have to have some sort of, on window close trigger that has to check a million things.
Right, yeah.
As opposed to just knowing which button they clicked.
It's like you have to account for every crazy thing a user might do.
It would just do it the way we told them in the first place.
Yeah.
That's right.
Why don't they all just think like us? Why are they not logical human beings?
Here, here. I'm learning that, although I'm a Mac IT person, but I'm learning to be a Windows IT person.
I'm so sorry.
I know. Thank you for your sympathy. I appreciate it. Because we moved FileMaker to Windows 2019 VM, 2019 server VM, and I took 2 days. I set up all the Macs. It was like about 35 Macs on Microsoft Remote Desktop, no problem. Everything was working. People were printing, and then go down to this little location in Virginia. It's like 10 computers, and they're running Windows. Some of them were still running Windows 7, so I had to upgrade all the well, an outside IT, I just coordinated with them. And man, I didn't realize how many different people are not, let me put it this way, how many computer savvy people we do have in Pittsburgh compared to Virginia. Because there's only 10 of them, and man, I just want to be like, wait, just do it this way, because it seems logical to me. And then they have no idea what to do at all with their computers. There's times I'm just like, I get paid to tell people to reboot their computers, but even more so down there, I can't believe people just, to do what you're saying, Beth. I wish they would think like us, but they don't. But that's all right. I have a job.
Yeah. They keep us busy.
So I actually read a quote. There's somebody put something together that, there was a fear that robots would eventually replace programmers.
No.
But the catch is that the users have to accurately describe what they want the program to do, so we're safe.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes. I'm I've many years of experience of knowing it from both sides. So, but that's the bit, you hit the nail on the head there, sorry, I'm forgetting your name for 1 second. I've been working 7 days a week for like a couple of months, and so I am tired. And so, but that's exactly what it is. And then it's taking 8 IT people, including myself, to figure out their situation, because there's FileMaker developers, and then there's people that do the programming for the JavaScript on our website, which connects to FileMaker server, but they need to do the JavaScript. And then we need a Windows server admin. And then you need, and then you have the people that are actually going to the location that are upgrading the computers. I'm a system admin, and it's like, wow, how many IT people does it take to get a program to start? That's where it's like, oh God, it's like a light bulb.
Yeah.
Tim, where in Virginia is this that you at?
Oh, I think we talked about it last time. It's in Manassas.
Well, I'm sorry I didn't know you were there. I would have come out and helped you, because it is so easy to install FileMaker on Windows machines from a central server. I mean,
Well,
it's
we're not using FileMaker server. I mean,
no,
we're not using FileMaker client on the computers. We're using.
Okay.
It's a really cool. It's from smtech.cloud. We're using a remote app as well as remote desktop, and also it has an HTML5 web access. So we have many choices now to see our business software, and I'm just impressed of all the different ways that can be done to see KeyBiz, and I think it's cool and wonderful, but some users are like, they just want it the way they want it. Didn't somebody say something like that a little bit ago? But yeah, so it's.
Yeah, there are a lot of options like that. Some number of years ago, I don't remember exactly how many. Danny Mack at New Millennium, now Codens, he and I and a couple of other people were working on a project for one of his clients. It was a school district in Northern California. They were all set up to access everything through web browsers, but not using WebDirect. They were using a Citrix client that connected to a Citrix server that was running multiple instances of FileMaker Pro, but the information would then come back to their screen. They could enter data in the web browser on the screen, send it to the Citrix server, and then it went into the FileMaker server. So there are lots of different options.
Yeah,
have fun in Manassas. They didn't have frost. They had freeze.
Oh, well, I'm still working from the comfort of my home. So I didn't go down to Virginia. I was just,
Oh, you were remote. You didn't actually.
I was remoting. I do a remote of remote. So, but what's nice is that when I was accessing one of their computers, they have a network drive. So when I was making all these shortcuts, this Client Connect program to go onto the remote app, then I'm sitting at my house. I'm just making them, and then I'm on my Windows desktop. I created, copy, paste it over to their network drive on the other. So I use I have a couple monitors, but I don't know about you guys, but I do a lot of full screen views. So then I have the magic mouse, and then I go in between the screens all the time. And that's been really nice. I'm a big user of that, but it's nice. It's almost like I was there. And believe me, IT is, you only hear when things are working. So you don't hear about the good stuff. So believe me, it was like I was right there. And they told me it was like I was right there. And it sure sounded like from them that I was right there. So yeah, it's been really nice. So it's called, the program is called TS Plus. So can do what did I say? Yeah, I think it's TS Plus, and how you can make any app a remote app. So on the Windows side, they just click this shortcut I created on this TS Plus remote access, and it opens up the Keybase. And what I did on each one is made Keybase the startup file for when they start FileMaker Pro, and it just looks like FileMaker is running the Keybase running FileMaker right on their desktop. It's pretty
This is
cool.
sort of a terminal services type enhancement.
Yeah, yes, I would say that, yes.
Yeah, that's the same thing that Tetrix does. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it sounded similar, yeah. So, it's pretty cool. But I can bring it up on a web browser, and it does the same thing. It creates that secure connection to TS Plus, and then like you said, it draws the software on the web browser when you enter the data, and it's actually talking then to the FileMaker server and then coming back on your screen on the web browser. So that's cool too. So at night, if I'm not near my computer, or it could be anytime early this morning, I'm looking at Keybase on my phone. So I'm like, what are you trying to do? So I have RDP on my phone too. So even though, I have a Pro Max, so it's pretty nice size screen, but if I really needed to see the Windows desktop, and I just didn't make it into my office, because the commute is difficult, going from my bedroom to my office. But yeah, so I was, even this morning, I was answering their questions and doing it all just on my phone. It's like,
well, RDP is very useful. It's the software I use to go from my Macintosh machines to all of my Windows machines if I want to display their screen. And of course, I also use it to connect to client Windows machines and things like that. But almost all, 99% of my FileMaker, construction, design, programming, whatever you want to call it, is done on the Windows platform, because that's what the clients are using. I do test things sometimes on Macintosh, and I also do security testing. If I'm testing somebody's application, I always test it on both Macintosh and Windows, because of the different API vulnerabilities that can exist between the platforms and stuff like that. So,
yes.
But it sounds like you got them all fixed. So come to Manassas. The best time to come is in the fall. you know, so see what happens. It was just a little cold out there this morning, I heard. That's
Well,
about
That's what
maybe
I heard.
40 miles from me, the other side of Dulles Airport.
Oh, okay.
So there you go. Go.
The one IT person I was talking to, he's in Fairfax, so I guess Fairfax is right by Manassas, right?
Yeah, well, there's a Fairfax City and then there's Fairfax County, which is the
Oh, it's-
largest county
Oh,
in
it's-
Virginia. And then there's the independent city of Fairfax.
Okay,
which-
it was the city, yeah.
Okay, yeah, let's say it's out in that same area. And while Miss Latta is here, you did hear the big news from yesterday, didn't you, about our friend Miss Perry?
Oh, yes. Isn't that exciting?
Yeah,
I was there. I voted for her.
Mayor-elect of the borough of Crafton.
Yeah. Yeah. I went down and I voted at 7 o'clock yesterday morning. So,
Well, I did my voting about 2.5 weeks ago at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, early voting or remote voting or whatever they call it. Very good.
everybody's probably clueless about what we're talking about, but
No,
Colette, Mary,
I've known Coletta for a long time, so
okay. Yeah, I used to.
Yeah, I mean,
work for her,
remember,
actually.
BJ, I had said to you back on, I don't know, maybe Friday night chat or whatnot, that election was scheduled for yesterday. And
yeah,
sure enough, this morning, we
awesome.
connected and I got that word.
Yeah, I live in the same borough, so I was able to actually vote for her. So,
Awesome.
Poor Coletta's problems have just started. But,
tell me about it.
I told her I hope she had a large bottle of extra strength Tylenol. She was gonna need it. And having served in city government many years ago, a somewhat larger city than the borough of Crafton,
Yeah.
or Crofton, she's got her work cut out for her, but she can do it.
Absolutely. She'll be a good mayor.
I guess anything else about WebDirect or anything else about anything else?
One thing about WebDirect on ShareVoices, recently, someone had posted a desire to have WebDirect respect single sign-on, and the person was apparently incorrectly told that it did not, but in fact it does. It's cumbersome and it's difficult to configure it, and it's fragile, but it can be done. Wim and I have done it. I don't necessarily recommend it, but and you know, web browsers are peculiar animals anyway. They're not the most secure platform ever known to mankind, and but you know, we're trying to get people away from passwords, and that works pretty well with websites. The passwordless authentication, which is what I've been playing with the last couple of days at Ignite.
I guess that's what the key is that, because most of our applications have been where the users are anonymous anyway. They're not really good. You're using the local account. So I think as long as you don't expect WebDirect to be FileMaker Pro Desktop, and if you need all the features of FileMaker Pro Desktop, you use FileMaker Pro Desktop. It goes back to getting the right tool for the job.
Right.
But
the tool has improved if you need WebDirect. So
we'll keep watching what they say about that. Later this month, Robert Holsey is doing an Engage Plus, or whatever they call it now, session about the changes that are coming and things that they're going to be doing. I believe that is on the 16th, maybe. Go to claris.com/engage and you'll see it and you can sign up for it.
Yep.
16th at noon Eastern Standard Time, it'll be then. Oh, and don't forget, we go back on Standard Time.
Oh, that's this
Sunday.
weekend, right?
Yeah, and so if you have setups that have domain controllers and FileMaker servers and whatnot, make sure they're all on the same time zone, because if they're not, users may not be able to connect come Monday morning.
I'm also looking forward to an extra hour of sleep.
Yeah, it sounds like you deserve it, Kim.
I get up when the sun comes up. I don't care what time it is.
Well, hopefully I don't get calls earlier so I can stay in bed a little bit.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean I'm sleeping. It just means
Hate to get out of the covers when it's cold.
exactly.
There we go.
You got it, Bev.
Does anybody have anything else FileMaker related they need to get off their chest?
I do have a question. It's nothing to do with WebDirect, so perhaps you can help me since I said I'm learning Windows. Also, what we can do is bring up FileMaker using the client on Macs, and it's slower, so it's better to use Microsoft Remote Desktop because it's, because it's on the local server there. And but what are users? See, we're unusual that most of us use Macs. I realize we're unusual, and we're a little spoiled compared to, I think you were just saying, and most people use Windows. And so we are used to dragging and dropping PDFs, things like that, into all these containers that I made. And then it shows up because Macs have built-in preview, so the viewer. So what I've learned over the last week or so is that I had to make buttons, insert buttons for Windows people so they can insert the PDF into the container because they can't drag and drop easily. And also when even Macs now, we're dragging it, or they're inserting it, and on the Windows, it's not showing a preview of the PDF. Now, I did do some research, and that we are using FileMaker 19. I did upgrade us to a FileMaker 19.3. I believe it just came out about a week or two ago. It was supposed to address the Windows being able to see PDFs in containers, but it's still not working right. And I don't know if anyone has any experience with that.
There have been a couple of threads on the Tech Talk, Community Talk, whatever we call it nowadays, about that. Kim, are you on that list?
Yes.
Okay, so you might check and see. There was a somewhat related issue about PDFs displaying in web viewers on Windows OS, and part of the issue there was apparently when they went from IE to Edge, something didn't go exactly right. So I think this is a known issue. Make sure when you look on the user's Windows machines, and I can't remember whether it's in preferences or file options. I think it's in preferences. Make sure that drag and drop is enabled. There's a setting for that too. So okay. that might be. I don't use that functionality, so I'm not 100% sure where it is, but just always double check that.
All right, that's a good tip.
Yeah,
I can certainly say that that there is an issue there, because we were a complete Windows shop, and in our application when we did some of our tracking of purchasing, we wanted to be able to drop the invoice or the receipt that we got, or the packing slip that we got, so we could close out the order, rather than having all these papers on somebody's desk that we had to try to match up later. And we were never able to, we'd save the email that came from Amazon as a PDF and drop it into that container, but you could never see it. So I kept thinking it was something I was doing wrong, but
Also double check in the in layout mode in inspector and see what the setting of the container field is. See if it's set for interactive content.
yep, I remember that.
Cause I was trying different settings in that area. And none of them seemed to work. They also told, I was told put Adobe and install Adobe onto the user server. So I put that on, that didn't work. But any file, any PDFs that were put on from a Mac FileMaker Pro client, you can view in Windows. But if you put it in from Windows, insert it from Windows, it doesn't work. So
Yeah, that's been
what I
my
found out so
experience.
far.
Yeah, Kim, my experience has been exactly what you've are experiencing, where no matter what settings you try, that scenario seems to always play out. I know it's been a while since I've tried it, but the one thing I had tried at one point is that if you insert the file on the Windows side, then you can run a script on the Mac side. If you have like a Mac robot, where you get the file, export it, and then if you do a calculation on like the full path, because usually like the file path is either like file win or file Mac colon, and then you have the whole path, is that if you change it to image win or image Mac, and then instead of doing insert file into that container, you do insert, I forget what insert step, I'd have to double check, but then you can, but unfortunately you can't declare the path or specify what fields you're inserting into. You just have to go to a layout that has that field on it, that you can clean it up that way. But that's, a lot of overhead with the scripting and everything. So I didn't really try that for very long. I just shared a link in the chat. That it would only work in like FileMaker 19 and newer because it's an add-on. But it's a PDF viewer that One More Thing and Fabrice Nordman and his team have developed. And cost-wise, I don't think you can mess around with any of the other solutions for all the more that they charge for it. Now, it doesn't handle the insertion, so you would probably still have to use a button for that. But by putting this add-on web viewer, then it works on Windows or Mac, and you can also just insert it as a file. You don't even have to worry about whether it's an interactive document or not. The add-on actually takes care of that, so you can see the PDF.
Okay, so this is like you just, I would just first try this on my in-house program called EC Pro. So basically, I just need to put this as an add-on. I think somebody shared this with me a couple years ago, probably you, Todd, but I wasn't using 19 yet.
Okay.
But now we are, and if I just put this as an add-on to the file itself, then it's basically just going on the file. I don't know if I'm saying this right. Like I don't have to put it per user or anything like that. It's just
correct. Yeah,
okay.
from what I can understand of the licensing, that if you buy it once, you're able to use it within your organization.
Okay.
So it's not like a monthly fee or a per user fee. I mean, that's something you may want to have to verify after you get your, I can't remember if they offer like where you could get it as like a time limited demo or something, just to, test it in a standalone file, just to make sure it's going to do what you want it to do. Like I said, the biggest thing is that because it's a web viewer, like if your users are used to, obviously, like the dragging and dropping, you have to, handle that for the insertion. But then also if they need to get the document out for any reason, they can't right click on it and do export file contents. They'd have to, click a button and you handle and script the export. So depending on how many, layouts that touches, there may be, some work and programming involved for you. But I think it's $69 US,
Yeah, let me see here.
which is,
Not, if that saves me tons of work, I will gladly pay $60. That's nothing.
like I said, I would at least investigate it to see if that would, because like I said, the big thing that I was impressed with is you could still do insert file, whether it was the container was set for interactive content or not,
Okay.
and you could still view it in the PDF or view the PDF in the web viewer. I mean, speak correctly there.
All right, thank you.
Anything else? All right. Well, I know everybody was disappointed last month when I didn't have closing slides, so I have closing slides this month. So let me go ahead and share that here. And we kind of already touched on this. So thank you, Stephen. But yeah, the Claris Engage Beyond continues. There's actually 2 sessions on November 16th. There's the one at noon that Stephen mentioned about the future of the Claris platform with Robert Holsey and his team from Claris. And then there's a second session that's at 1:30 in that afternoon Eastern time with Vince from Beeswax on transactions. So you can now, and I'll make sure that this link is included in the follow-up email so that if anybody needs to check it out, so you can pre-register for the event and everything. Cross is doing another one of our Lunch and Learn webinars in November. Because it's me, I've started calling them Todd Talks, just because it's fun to call them Todd Talks. But just specifically about the while function and just some thoughts on that. So if anybody's interested. And then we've got our Slack channel and LinkedIn group, which doesn't get a whole lot of use, but if you're interested, just let me know. So our survey questions were when working on a FileMaker solution, which developer task do you typically enjoy?
Sorry, Stephen. Everyone said 0 on security.
I'm shocked.
And I was shocked about that. And I was actually shocked that the gathering system requirements from the user was the one that had, the largest majority. Because I'm I would prefer to just build the solution and tell the users how they have to use it rather than, finding out what they want to do, but that's just me. So, second question we asked was just, everybody's, preferred configuration of the hardware and the operating system when deploying server. Obviously, since like the last time since I recycled these questions on a somewhat regular basis, of course, we now have, Linux as an option for our hosting needs. But you can see there that the big winner was a virtualized PC server running Windows Server, and then a few for FileMaker Cloud, and we had one write-in for they don't care as long as it works. So I think we could probably all agree with that. So
Yeah.
all right. And then the last question was, as part of your Halloween celebration, which horror movies or holiday specials are on your must-see list? So I think I started with like the top 10 or 12 horror movies as they're considered, and threw a few others in there. It was a very broad spectrum, as you can see, because there was no clear, obvious answer as far as the majority. But what I found interesting is that we like Alien and It's a Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown equally. So that was an interesting combo. So
We had this conversation on another group and about scary movies, and the answer came up as things like 101 Dalmatians, because it's pretty scary when you're a kid, worried about the puppies. So
that is very true. Very true.
And
All
as
right.
a follow on to the pumpkin spice one, my daughter sent me a picture of pumpkin spice spam.
Oh, no.
I think that would go on my list as the least favorite.
Yeah.
Spam.
Yep. All right, so our next meeting will be December 1st, which is, I think it's the Wednesday after Thanksgiving, the holiday. But I think if we push it into December, then we start running into all of the December holiday festivities with, parties and get-togethers and stuff. So we'll probably just go ahead and keep it on December 1st. We are going to attempt, based on responses and everything, we'll go for a hybrid meeting. So we'll be meeting in person as well as having the remote portion. So that is the plan, but obviously if that changes, we'll let everybody know. We talked about Engage. The other important date that everybody needs to remember is that the Ghostbusters Afterlife movie arrives exclusively in theaters on November 19th. And I'm debating whether I should buy my ticket now or if I can wait until closer to time, but that's just me. All right. It's our next topic for December will be a FileMaker show and tell. So we have one person tentatively lined up. So if anybody else has something that they would like to show and tell, let me know and we'll get you slotted in for next month. And like I said, we'll be sending out the survey. Might not be till Friday before I get it sent out. So don't be alarmed if you don't get it tomorrow or anything. And then just thank you to all of you who joined us this evening and chimed in. Certainly appreciate your thoughts. And thanks again to Thomas and Teresa for letting us crash their Zoom meeting room. So
Yeah, thank you.
I just wanted to say a big thank you to all of you because especially Bev and Beth, you really helped me with the list view, so I was able to get the keywords in. And just this group has been very instrumental with me moving forward on a lot of this, especially in the last year or so. So I appreciate you all. That's all I wanted to say.
very welcome, Kim. So does anybody else have one more, or do they come up with one more thing that they wanted to share? I have one more thing I can share. I had to dust off this classic because I couldn't think of any others. And since Halloween was just 2 or 3 days ago. But that would be, do you know why the skeleton didn't cross the road?
Because he didn't have the guts.
Nice. Paul would be proud.
I'm gonna have to tell my grandkids that one. That's a good one.